Let's start with, of course, with Mexico. So we were supposed to do a podcast, I want to say May 18th.
Yeah.
It was right after the Mexican election.
Right.
What the hell is going on right there? Because, listen, so this is Wikipedia's page. Up to 60 politicians were assassinated during the pre-campaign and campaign periods in Mexico. NBC News. From September to May, 34 candidates or aspiring candidates have been assassinated, with most killings linked to drug cartels seeking to influence local elections. Reuters. Mexico's election is now the bloodiest in its modern history after a candidate running for local office in central Puebla state was murdered on Friday at a political rally, taking the number of assassinated candidates to 37. What the hell is going on?
Well, that's not anything new with Mexico. Mexico's always done that. So Mexico's always assassinated potential politicians that were wanting to take leadership roles, whether it be on a district level, on a state level, on a federal level, and even become presidents. It's not surprising to us. We've always known that. Yeah.
34 candidates, 34 people minimum were killed that were aspiring candidates.
Yeah, yeah. That's normal. It's not nothing like to us. Like it's normal. It's not like oh wow no. No, we know that. Yeah, this is normal. It's always happened. They kill people that want to become mayors all the time, like all over the country. So that number is actually that you guys are aware of over here in America, or if you're whatever part of the world you're watching this from. That's
regular life.
That's regular life. That's like okay, it's just every day, another day in Compton. You know what I mean? It is what it is.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
2 months ago, they almost killed one guy here in the U.S.
Yeah.
And the world got crazy.
Yeah, no, Mexico is very, very common. I mean, you got to think there's billions of dollars that are, especially with fentanyl and all that stuff that's coming out, the new drugs that are coming out, they're so much more profitable than cocaine is. And so therefore, these people got to make sure they stay in power, and they have to be with candidates that are going to support them. So if I know that you're going to crack down, these people were murdered after there was an attempt to bribe them. So what I mean by that is that first, like for example, Paulo, I'm going to come up to your candidate and you're a popular candidate, right? And people like you. I'm going to try to bribe you before I kill you. And so
that's very noble.
It's very noble. You're getting a chance. So like, hey, look, this is what it comes down to. Like these people that got killed were not just everyday Joe Blows that had no momentum. Mm-hmm. These people that you're reading about that got killed all had momentum. They had a popularity amongst the people.
They got their 15 minutes of
They had their 15 minutes of fame. So when you see a candidate, you're gonna kill them until one says yes. It's the same concept that Pablo Escobar had in Colombia, the plata o plomo, which is either silver or a bullet. That's either you choose one or the other. So in Mexico, the plata o plomo is a very, very, very common way of doing things. Either you align or you're gonna die. And that's pretty much what it comes down to. But it's nothing out of this world for people that live in Mexico. We're aware of it. Yeah, they kill mayors all the time.
So the new president is Claudia Sheinbaum, right? So she
is a Jewish feminist socialist. It's the most dangerous combination.
How is it possible?
Because minority groups are very emotional. I'll give you an example.
First of all, do you think the election was cheated over there?
Oh, absolutely.
It wasn't fair?
No, of course. It's never fair in Mexico. It's never been fair. It's not fair here, let alone over there. No, it's never. Mexico elects a president that the cartels want. Well, the more not all the cartels, the most powerful cartel. Because, for example, if she was funded by Cartel de Sinaloa, Cartel de Jalisco Nueva Generación, or whatever the bigger cartels, she's going to be the opposition to the other cartels, because she's going to make sure that the military, the Marines, go after the opposing cartel. Mm-hmm. So when people are like, oh, the cartels elected them. No, not all of them. They fight each other. So it's whoever has the most money. That's basically whose candidate she's from. And so therefore, it seems like, I'm not 100% sure, but it seems like this was a president that was elected by the Sinaloa cartel. So
that's the most powerful?
No, they are not the most powerful. People
They're about to become.
No, they're not. They're actually on the downfall. And the people on your show here that don't understand how this works, you're like, ah, Sinaloa. No, it's not. It's actually very fractured right now, and it's been fractured for the past 5 years. The most powerful cartel in Mexico right now is Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación, and so they're the most influential. They're united, and they're the most powerful and have the most money right now. Sinaloa cartel is not divided up in 3 different sections, and so like Sinaloa doesn't even control all of Sinaloa anymore. Southern Mexico, you have El Chapo Isidro, which is an opposition to the Chapo's kids. Like they don't even control their own state, let alone control anything else. So do they have influence? Sure, but they don't have the maximum control like when Chapo and El Mayo that was just recently apprehended in Arizona, Texas. When they were in power and they were, running everything, yeah, they were the most powerful, but those days are over now. And again, your viewers that only listen to songs about and listen to, that don't understand this, are going to say, no, Sinaloa. It's the most popular, but it's no longer the most powerful. They've been out of power not out of power completely, but they've lost a lot of their power over the course of the past 5 years.
So you're basically telling me the story of Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. By the way, when has this never happened? At one point, the most powerful cartel in Mexico was the Cartel de Guadalajara, right? And that was by Rafael Caro Quintero. And he. So, by the way, in Colombia, at one point, it was a Cartel de Medellin, right? Like,
yeah.
Not everybody. What's Murphy's Law? What goes up must come down. You know what I mean? You're not going to stay in power forever. Sure, you're always like. You think about the Medellin cartel, Cali cartel. They're always going to ring a bell.
Mm-hmm. Because they were on the show, on the Netflix show.
Because they had their time, right? Sinaloa cartel's always going to ring a bell, but they're no longer the most powerful cartel in Mexico, in the world. At the very least, they're not the most powerful anymore.
So basically, Mexico is a huge country with huge population, and it's just Game of Thrones of
Game
cartels.
Of Thrones of cartels, yeah. So she's a Jew. And I don't see that in the wrong way. I know that you have Jewish viewers, nothing wrong against Jews, but Mexico is not a Jewish country.
Yeah, at all.
It's not. So you have a Jew feminist socialist. And by the way, they were letting people that live here in America
to vote for her
at the embassies, at the Mexican embassies. So my in-laws voted in the last election, which I find that to be wild. You don't live in Mexico. You haven't been in Mexico. You don't suffer the consequences of Mexican politics. You should not be allowed to vote.
But they're citizen.
They're citizens, but they don't live there. They live here.
Yeah, but I don't live in Lithuania as well.
And by the way, I don't believe you should be able to vote in Lithuania either.
Really?
You live here. Why? You're not going to suffer the consequences of decisions being made over there.
But I have loved ones over there, my relatives.
Let them vote. They live there.
They're too lazy.
Well, that's fine. But I don't think you. I don't believe. By the way, no matter you and me align politically. Even though I would align with you politically over there. I would not want you to vote in your home country's elections if you live here. You're going to suffer the consequences of the election here. You will not suffer the consequences of the elections back home. I didn't vote in Mexico, even though I'm a dual citizen and I have my INE, which is my ability to be able to vote in Mexico. I didn't because I'm very well aware that I am not going to suffer the consequences of their elections. I'm going to suffer the consequences of the country that I live in.
Yeah, but there are two choices. There are two reasons why people flee their country or leave their country, right? So, for instance, I didn't flee Lithuania because of seeking for asylum or something. I just wanted a better life, and I thought that I can do a podcast worldwide. That's why I have to go to the U.S. That's it. So, in my opinion, I think that in that way I should vote. But if you flee the country because it's so terrible, then maybe you don't have a right to vote. But you will never determine who's who.
Like I said, there's no right or wrong way to go about it. It's just my personal opinion. I just believe that if you're not there to suffer the consequences of your decision, then you shouldn't be able to vote there. It's that simple. I don't believe that Mexicans that live in America should vote in Mexican elections. You don't live there. So let me tell you why. They don't know what's going on over there.
Yes.
Okay? All they're getting is their information from the news. For us, it's Telemundo, Univision, TV Azteca. You're getting the brainwashed version of what you think is happening in Mexico.
And what they're brainwashing you with?
Of course, what they're brainwashing you with. But American, Latino channels are brainwashing you.
Yeah, but what they're saying? That the country is great or the country is...
this is going to be our... By the way, what the CNN, MSNBC... New York Times does here with the liberals, right? They're the best, they're the noble, they're the accepting, they're the loving.
So right? Telemundo is left.
Telemundo, Univision, TV Azteca, they're all left. There is no right wing or no neutral channel in America that is a neutral channel. As a matter of fact, they bash Trump here, and they're not even involved in American politics. So if your decision is going to be based on not your lived experience in Mexico, or not your lived experience in Canada, or not your lived experience in El Salvador, or not your lived experience in Africa, don't fucking vote there, bro.
Because you're brainwashed.
You're brainwashed. You're only getting the version of whatever the media wants you to know about. So why should you vote in a country? By the way, you're still, like, no matter what way you look at it, you're not going to suffer the consequences of that election. So stay out of it. So worry about your country that you live in right now, because that's what's going to affect you.
That's a very good point. So I lived in Lithuania for 33 years. Then prior to coming to the US, I lived in Spain for 2 years.
You shouldn't vote there either.
I didn't.